as Nazgul was able to apply some early pressure with his Zealots and destroy several probes, about 4 to 5 probes. That cost InControl greatly in the game. InControl, feeling that he was behind, actually warped in a proxy pylon behind Nazgul's base on Lost Temple, and then he proceeded to warp in several sentries. Take a look at what happened.
He's moving out with the sentries right now in that base, blocking off his own ramp at home. He needs to micro these correctly, though. He doesn't want to be shooting those 3 buildings, but given the probes enough time, look to see he has enough to actually one-shot him there. And so he needs to micro these sentries very badly. Killing this gas is like the worst thing he could be attacking right now. He needs to be attacking something else. And so I don't know why he's not chasing these probes. I'm not sure what's going on here. Not the best control, as now there are a couple stalkers to help defend this. There's those zealots we've been waiting for, but it just seems like he should be going for the probes. We'll see if he has enough, though, to kill this army. Just he's behind in the economy. He's behind in every way possible. And so even more force fields going down. Look at Nazgul having a ton of energy for that. He did really good control with that just a moment ago, and this is no different right here. The zealots just frustrated because they're all trapped. And so InControl is going to GG.
Unfortunately, InControl, demonstrating no control there over his sentries and warped-in units, actually attacking the assimilator and the cybernetics core instead of the probes. That cost him game number 1. Alright, game number 2 was on Kulos Ravine between Nazgul and InControl. InControl looking for a little bit of redemption after failing to show control in game number 1. Unfortunately, in this game it was on Kulos Ravine. InControl decided to chrono boost his Zealots out of his gateway, and he didn't know where Nazgul spawned because it is a 4-player map. Nazgul, on the other hand, used his chrono boost for probes, and so we can all see how Nazgul was able to build up a much larger economy early on, and InControl's early Zealots didn't really make a difference. He didn't know where Nazgul was. In the end, it just came down to a quick and easy push by Nazgul to end game 2 and propelling Nazgul into the round of 8.
Now Nazgul moving in with a very large army, using those force fields to once again split the Protoss army. Immortal is going to go down to Sentry Fire, and InControl here in a lot of trouble. He's got a micro. He does have another Immortal out, and he's got to control this well to try to hold this off. Micro the Stalkers away from the Zealots, but oh, there's just so many Zealots and Stalkers, or excuse me, Zealots and Sentries still inside InControl's base, and he's desperately trying to warp in more units, and I don't know if he's going to be able to hold this off. Bringing probes off the line, and probes going down to the Sentries. InControl. GG's 2-0'd by Nazgul. Nazgul's going to advance to the next round.
Alright, we're going to be looking at Noni versus Moonglade now in the HDH round of 16. Noni, of course, a very well-known Protoss player, winning the last TSL in Brood War. Moonglade actually winning against Legionnaire in the Australian Showcase. So this is one of the most anticipated Protoss versus Zerg matchups. Both players considered evenly skilled, especially considering Noni hasn't really practiced that much in StarCraft 2, but was so dominant in Brood War. So let's go ahead and take a look at set number 1 between the two players. Both of them actually spawning on Lost Temple. Moonglade actually grabbed a fast expansion early on and bulked up his sunken defense. He had about 8 or 9 sunken colonies at his natural, and his plan was to go for 2 hatch mutas. Unfortunately, Noni had other plans, going for a very, very intuitive, very creative Phoenix build, something that he's actually been practicing a lot versus Zergs these days. And the Phoenix build paid off. Combined with the Phoenix and Sentries, he was able to hold off the mutas and eventually make a push using his Phoenixes to harass all the Overlords, all the drones, picking them up, and eventually won the game.
And there's just nothing that he can really do right now to kill these air units. And look at this. Gotta kill more Overlords. Gotta lift up this Queen. Her days are numbered. Oh, this is out of control. I don't think I've seen such Phoenix ownage in PvZ and StarCraft 2 ever. And look at this. He has so much energy. Oh, man. I'm getting nerd chills right now. Oh, man. Those Colossus having the happiest day of their lives. And anyways, I think that Noni was in a good position anyways. Oh, man.
That was like the I surrender.
Oh,
Take my throne.
Yeah, here's sacrifice drones to the Protoss gods and hope that it pays off. A couple of infestors are going to pop out. Actually, a lot of infestors. But a little bit too late as they do get picked up here.
Game number 2 between Noni and Moonglade showcased Moonglade trying the exact same thing, going for this fast 2-hatch expansion and then trying to throw down those spine crawlers to defend, assuming that he was going to be going for 2-hatch mutas yet again. Unfortunately, Noni once again had plans to thwart, and he was able to proxy some pylons in the middle of the map, warping in a lot of early pressure, and he was able to bust down that early spine crawler defense, and that was all she wrote for game number 2. Noni advances on in the round of 16.
This is a huge threat for a Zerg player against Protoss, because there can be pylons all over the map. Against any Protoss player, all these pylons going to make those units warp in much closer in front of the Zerg base. And now I don't know if Moonglade, he doesn't see the pylons, but he does see this massive force moving out from before. He is really overreacting to this. He's got a lot of spine crawlers out. Looking at the units tab, he does not have any Zerglings. He's relying completely on his static defense to hold this. He can use the Queen to heal the spine crawlers. I don't think we've used the transfusion. I don't think we've seen him use the transfusion ability yet. He's pulling drones off the line as well, and these drones are still alive, but the Zealots are going straight for the spine crawlers. Moonglade here. Oh! The drone's getting denied. The force field going down. The drones cannot get out there to help the spine crawlers, but I think it's all right. It's going to be really close. 3 spine crawlers to 3 Zealots. I think Moonglade is going to be able to hold on, but at what cost? How many drones did he lose in that last exchange?
Alright guys, in the HDH Invitational, we also had Jinro versus Whitera. Both these players also very well known. Jinro also known as Frozen Arbiter, and Jinro actually playing Terran, Whitera playing Protoss. Now on Lost Temple, Jinro decided to go for an interesting Marine siege tank timing push. Whitera, on the other hand, had other plans. He decided to go for a hidden Stargate in the corner of his base, was able to chrono boost a Void Ray, immediately move over Jinro's base, and Jinro decided at the same exact time to attack with his Marines and siege tanks. Not the best timing, as he had nothing to defend in his main base.
Oh, we actually have a Stargate.
Stargate. That's very rare in PvT. That pylon also serving as a double purpose there, as an SCV can't see that because of the cliff, even though he is so close there. And yeah, he doesn't know about it, but we could see, I would assume, Void Rays. Really unfortunate for Jinro, because for those of you who don't know, Marines are actually extremely effective against Void Rays. It only takes a handful of Marines costing 50 minerals each to kill those Void Rays, and the Void Rays just now arriving inside of his base. At the same time, he is completely out across the map, and so no matter how many Marines he makes, I don't know if he's going to be able to make them fast enough, trying to micro them there.
And now Jinro pulling back all of his units, and Whitera actually following right behind his tail. Looks like Jinro's going to try to lift off his command center and place it down at the natural expansion. Tons of action going on right here. Force field going down as well.
Game number 2 showcased both players going for very similar builds as game number 1. Whitera actually going for that hidden tech with Stargate Void Ray once again. Jinro altering his build a little bit, this time getting Marines, and instead of getting siege tanks, got a quick Thor. So this is very interesting, and he pushed on really early on with his Marines and his Thor, as well as 3 SCVs to repair the Thor. Unfortunately, Whitera was able to hold at his ramp, and that was all she wrote for game number 2 between Jinro and Whitera.
Looks like a Stargate's coming out, so the Stargate hidden tech yet again, where that pylon was at. So I guess maybe it's a good idea he does have Marines in
this, and he's going to try and end it right here. This is a very early timing attack.
Right, he's going, I think, almost like all in. This is pretty much, I'm wondering why he didn't pull more SCVs off the line, but here's the bad part. The Thor getting focused by the Void Rays, and the Marines are falling back and not being where they need to be, and unfortunately not the right unit composition and just not enough.
Looks like Jinro is going to be falling out of the tournament as Whitera advances onward in the round of 16. Alright guys, in the next set of games we actually have Day 9 versus Tasteless, the most recent game that I've casted in the HDH Invitational. Day 9 and Tasteless was a very anticipated match between the Plot brothers, Day 9 known as Sean Plot, Tasteless known as Nick Plot. And so in game number 1, Tasteless decided to go for a quick Reaper Harass. It was pretty effective. He was able to kill several drones, but unfortunately he got supply blocked, and Day 9 continued to just build up, recover, build a Mutilus Baneling force, and then a huge clash occurred in the middle of Lost Temple where Day 9 was able to take the game.
And try to snipe those expansions. So he's basically stuck. He's got to keep his army together in one ball. He can't try any kind of a medevac drop attack. And unfortunately, keeping your units together in one ball doesn't work against Banelings, as we're about to see right here, a complete surround, crushing the Terran army from the left and the right and the north.
In game number 2 between Day 9 and Tasteless, keep in mind both of these players were playing random. They actually spawned on Blistering Sands, with Day 9 once again spawning as Zerg, his worst race. Tasteless spawning as Protoss, which I believe is his best race. And unfortunately for Day 9, he went in with an early scouting drone, saw a robotics facility coming up, and decided to prepare accordingly for a robotics build from Tasteless. Unfortunately, Tasteless had other plans, canceled the robotics as soon as the drone left, and threw up 4 warp gates. And then a 4 warp gate rush, huge pressure came onto Day 9, and there was nothing that Day 9 could do against his brother's raging fury.
Day 9 knows that there's a robotics bay coming in. He is probably not going to go roaches, like you said, because the most common unit we see out of the robotics is the Immortal, and of course Day 9, like you guys said, or like he said, he really hates using roaches, as do I. So we might be seeing some Hydralisks. Hydralisks are pretty good against Roach, and he's still, Day 9's still on 2 bases here. And the robotics facility, gets canceled right there. Robotics facility getting canceled, and Tesla's throwing down 2 extra gateways after the drone has actually, there's no more drone inside Tasteless's base. So Tasteless trying to trick his brother maybe and going for some kind of a quad gateway rush. Day9's going to be in a lot of trouble. Zealot's coming in to tank the damage in the front, but the Hydralisk is just not enough defense, and Day9's going to maybe lose his hatchery here.